The dog was always faster to the back corner of the yard than their 2-year-old. Every time. For 8 days, they thought he was territorial about his space. He was protecting theirs. Rosa Vargas had grown up in a house with dogs and considered herself fluent in their behavior in the practical lived-in way that has nothing to do with formal training. She knew the difference between a dog that was being playful and one that was being serious. She had spent 2 years watching Bruno, a 4-year-old English Bulldog mix, 59 pounds, built like a small ottoman with opinions, and she had never seen him serious, until the second week of September. Their backyard was small, fenced, the kind of space that a toddler and a medium-sized dog could both use without conflict. Maya was 2 years old and had recently discovered that running was faster than walking. A discovery she applied to every available surface with a commitment that Rosa found both delightful and exhausting. The yard was one of the safer outlets. The fence was solid, the gate was latched. There was nothing in the yard that Rosa had not inspected and approved. The back left corner had a low wooden deck section, 8 inches off the ground, that covered the original concrete patio from the previous owners. Rosa had thought about having it removed. She had not gotten around to it. Day 1 of the behavior, Maya ran toward the back left corner. Bruno, who had been in the center of the yard, moved to the corner first. He sat down in front of the deck edge, body blocking Maya's path. Maya tried to go around. He shifted. She tried again. He moved again. She gave up and ran in a different direction. Rosa watched this and thought, he's figured out a game. Day 2, day 3, same behavior. Bruno faster to the corner than Maya, every time the same blocking position. The same stubborn stillness when she tried to route around him. Day 4, Rosa paid closer attention. Bruno was not watching Maya when he blocked her. He was watching the deck. Nose pointed toward the gap between the deck boards and the ground, working steadily, not the quick sniff of curiosity, but the sustained reading of something specific. She crouched beside him and looked at the gap. She saw nothing. The space under the deck was dark and shallow. She saw dirt. She stood up and told herself it was probably a chipmunk. They had chipmunks. Day 5, she mentioned it to her husband Pedro. He said, "Chipmunks. Definitely. Bruno hates chipmunks." Day 7, Bruno refused to let Maya into the yard at all. He stood at the back door, body in the threshold, and would not budge. Maya pushed against him. He held his ground with the specific patient immovability that is a large dog's most effective argument. Rosa picked Maya up and carried her back inside. She stood at the window and watched Bruno walk to the corner of the yard, nose to the ground, trace the full perimeter of the deck in a slow, deliberate line, and return to the back door. She booked a pest control inspection for the following morning. The technician, a man named Greg Holcomb, 23 years in wildlife and pest management in the Virginia area, arrived at 8 a.m. He used a thermal imaging wand along the deck perimeter for 4 minutes. Then he said, "Give me a minute, and please stay inside the house." He emerged 6 minutes later with his catch pole and a container. He held it up at the kitchen window. Rosa looked. Then she looked away. A copperhead, approximately 32 inches. The species that accounts for a substantial portion of venomous snakebite hospitalizations in the mid-Atlantic states every year, particularly in children, whose smaller body mass means a proportionally larger venom load from any bite. The snake had been denning under the deck, using the gap as a temperature-controlled shelter as fall temperatures began to drop. Greg set the container down in the driveway. He said, "How long has your dog been acting strange in that corner?" Rosa said, 8 days. He nodded in the way people nod when something confirms what they already believe. He said, "Copperheads have a distinctive musk. Dogs can smell it through wood." He paused. The deck would have amplified it. Your dog was reading a scent plume coming up through the board gaps every time he went to that corner. He looked at the door. "You have a 2-year-old?" "Yes." He said nothing after that. He didn't need to. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Rosa sat at the kitchen table after Greg's truck left and reviewed 8 days of behavior in her head. Bruno faster to the corner than Maya. Bruno blocking, shifting, holding. Bruno watching the deck instead of the child. Bruno at the back door on day 7, refusing the yard entirely. 8 days of a dog who did not speak any language she had formally trained herself to hear, communicating in the only vocabulary available to him that something under the wood boards 40 feet from her toddler was not safe. She had called it chipmunks. She had almost been right that it didn't matter. Has your dog ever blocked your child from a specific area of your outdoor space repeatedly and you couldn't figure out why? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The deck came out the following weekend. Pedro removed it himself. Under it, evidence of long-term habitation, shed skins, a thermal mass the snake had used through the summer, proximity to the water source under the property, the exact conditions that make a copperhead stay in one place through an entire season. Maya helped Pedro with the removal in the way that 2-year-olds help with construction projects, which is to hand one object to an adult and then wander away. Bruno supervised from the center of the yard the entire time, watching the work with the patient attention of an animal whose job is not yet finished. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The next story involves a Labrador who wouldn't let a family use their pool for a full afternoon before anyone understood what he had already read in the water. When the last board came up and the space underneath was finally empty, Bruno walked to the corner of the yard, sniffed it once from edge to edge, and then walked back to the center of the yard and lay down in the sun.